Right then peeps, for those dedicated subscribers out there, you've probably already seen this before, but we'll go over it yet again. This is the bench rig that we are going to be using today. 4 Asus reference 7970 graphics cards. It's actually on my bench table at the moment. This is going to be getting changed very soon, so we won't be talking about that too much. Going to spin it round quickly. Let me check. Yeah, she looks good. Right, so different colour cables. The white cables go to their own power supply. It's an AX 1200 watt on the end of the white ones, and that's powering the 2nd, 3rd and 4th graphics cards. The reason why I'm using 2 power supplies, although the AX 1200 watt could power all of this if it really wanted to, is just because there's not really enough PCI Express connections, because I need 8 for the graphics cards, and I also need an extra one for the board to give me a little bit of PCI Express boost, stability, whatever you want to call it, but I need another cable over here. Now technically I could use Molex to PCI Express adapters, but then that would just look ugly, and I really don't like the look of it. And I've got all this kit laying around anyway, so there's no reason why I can't just wang another power supply on there, and then basically it's going to keep all the power delivery to the cards and to the rig all nice and stable, all nicely fed, not running on the raggedy edge where we're going to be wondering whether we've pushed the power supply a little bit too far. The blue cables are on the 2nd power supply. That's powering the top card, the board, the CPU, the hard drives, all that kind of stuff. So really the blue one's not really going to be getting a lot of use at all. The 2nd one is really where it's going to be, you know what I mean, getting used that little bit more, but far from on the edge. If we move around a little bit more, so we can get, there we go. RAM is Corsair GTX 8. Now the RAM is actually capable of running 2400 megahertz, but none of the 2011 CPUs I've had so far are. So the RAM is actually running at 2133. We've got a H100 there. Now, we've got some 38mm Panaflows, 160 CFM fans on this. And in all honesty, I'll tell you why. That's just so I've got a little bit more air blowing at the back of the cards. We've got some cool air running around the system. The difference between these and Noctua NFF 12s has been all of about a degree, maybe 2 degrees at the absolute top end. But these obviously create a crap load more noise. And if this has taught me anything, is that the Noctua fans are absolutely awesome when it comes to stuff like radiators. And it'll be a video that I will be covering very soon. CPU is a 3960X, which we've got running at 4.8 gigahertz, and to be perfectly honest with you, this is the absolute screaming end of this chip for me. I've got 2 3960Xs, I've tried both of them. This is the slightly better one of the 2. I can't push it any further without killing it. I've tried volts, I've tried cold, I've tried all sorts. It really is at the top end of this. Now, don't forget, it's not all about megahertz. It's also about how good the architecture and stuff is. And just because you're thinking, well, he's not got 5 gigahertz, this is still blazingly quick. And it's all nestled on an Asus Rampage 4 Extreme. So we've got a fair amount of Asus kit, we've got a fair amount of Corsair kit. Could be, you could say it's a fanboy rig, but never mind, I really don't give a monkeys, because this thing is going to set the world on fire. Hopefully not literally. Anyway, yes, so this is what we're going to be benching on today. The only real difference when I'm actually doing the videos themselves, I've got a 220 CFM Delta fan, which we're going to have kind of nestled around the back to help feed some air into the back of the cards, and I may end up putting a Panaflow or 2 on top of the cards as well to help force air down between, because obviously where they're all sat next to each other, it's not necessarily going to be the coolest or the quietest rig in the world, but we're just benchmarking. So really, it's enough of me chatting now. I'm going to show you a few shots of it actually running, but I'm not going to bore you to death with all the screenshot. Not going to bore you to death with, you know, demonstrating all of the runs. We'll just show you some screenshots at the end, because even I couldn't put up with standing in the room for too long while this is all running. But I'll give you a quick look now of what it's like when it is all running, and then we'll break onto the actual scores at the end. But yes, it's now time for me to be quiet and fire this monster up.
Right then guys, I've changed my microphone. I'll just show you the microphone that I'm using. It's so that I can hold it to my mouth a little bit better, and it's also so I can show you how loud really the rig is. And this is what we're gonna this is how we have to put up with it for hours on end while we're tweaking and trying to get results. It also gives me a chance to talk to you about while the benchmark's actually running, and you can see a validated result, so that you can see that we don't just kind of screenshot other people's stuff. You can see stuff running in the background. We are still working our way up on this. This isn't our final clock or anything. We're only running 1100 on the core at the moment. We're still trying to get a little bit more out of it. We don't know how far we're going to get. But anyway, so yeah, we're still trying a little bit. So, yeah, let's have a listen so that you can actually hear what I'm having to put up with at the moment. Now, we've still got over here the Delta running. Now the Delta is 220 CFM, 260 CFMs on the H100, and then all four of the cards are running at 100% as well. So yeah, let's have a little listen. And we change. And we'll change again. From the other side of the Delta. And from the top of the cards. And back from the back of the cards just one more time. Now I'll come and stand back around this side again, because the combined test, it always makes us nervous because we always think it's going to crash here, because the loading screen seems to stop there for ages, and I mean for ages. Yes, I did just purposely move that Corsair keyboard in. So yes, we just need to run this. This is the last test on it now, so you'll be able to see the result at the end of it. This is always the bit where I'm stood here going, has it frozen? Has it not frozen? It always makes me really, really nervous. There we go. Watch how quickly it does this now. There we go. There's the result, and we're still warming up. That's 24,477. And like I said, we've still got a bit more tweaking. I think we've still got a bit more in the memory we could get away with it yet. We're only running 1100 on the core. So yeah, I reckon I can still get... I really want to see 25,000. That's my goal, but we'll see what we can get. But yes, right, I'm going to leave this bit of the video here and crack on so I can actually get you some proper screenshots and some proper results to show you.
Right then, peeps. First of all, we've got the result for 3D Mark 11 P-score. Now, this is the original score that we did before when we couldn't overclock the cards. It was 24,211. Still not a score to be sniffed at whatsoever. But if I just go across here and bring the screenshot up, this is what we got when we got to overclock the cards. We got a P-score of 25,481. Now that's with the core clock on the cards being 1225, 1550 on the memory, and then their voltage roughly up to 1262 using the Trick software, which is the software I found to be the least buggy. So it's the reason why I use this over the Asus software. And it's quite a clean program to use anyway. You can see all the validations there for the fact that we're running the core on, the CPU at 4.8, the board, the memory, everything there to validate that score. And when we put it up onto HWBot, that put me in 17th position globally for 4 graphics cards, and it put me in 14th position for 4 7970s globally. Now that doesn't kind of sound, you know, like I've broken any records or anything like that, which, to be perfectly honest, I haven't. But it does put me first place in the UK. But then again, do you know what I mean? I'm massively happy with those scores. I could have tweaked further if I'd really wanted to, but you kind of have to balance up those extra few points and the amount of time it would take me, you know, considering that I'm not a full-on sort of like mega overclocker. You know, I'm not a professional overclocker. So I'm just changing the scores now quickly. I'll do it in front of you, but we'll go back. Right, so 3D Mark 11X score. That was the old score, which was 11,416. And then our new score was 12,397. Now this actually put me in 6th position globally and 4th position for the 4 7970s, which again put me first place in the UK. It's all the same settings as I'd used previously, just with the benchmark rerun. This obviously puts basically with the 4 cards on the P scores for both 3D Mark 11 and Vantage, the CPU was a bottleneck, believe it or not. And I hate using that word, but the CPU was holding it back. For me to have pushed any of these scores any further, I would have really needed every single one of them to have had a better CPU. Anyone with higher scores in front of me had massive CPU overclocks. I'd even gone past some people that had CPU overclocks better than mine. But yeah, if I want to go any further with this system, I really do need to freeze the board to be able to get any further. Anyway, so you've seen those 2 scores. That's 3D Mark 11. I'm going to stop the video now, reset the stuff up, and I'm going to tell you the results for Vantage. Right then, peeps, on to 3D Mark Vantage P score. The old score that we got with the cards previously was 65,130. Again, this was still being bottlenecked by the CPU. But if we move on to our new score, we've got 67,365. And you can see there, as you look through, you can see the all the validations there for everything. That was a bit of a mission to get running actually, because with the if you have a look here, because I've not got the tricks open, we had the GPU clock. We had to put that down to 1150 to get that to run all the way through Vantage, but we did manage to get the memory up to 1600, and this is because a lot of you may not realise that some benchmarks, you know, you can overclock certain parts more, and other benchmarks you have to, you know, underclock stuff. So with Vantage we managed to run the memory higher, but we had to turn the core clock down. And we didn't have to turn the core clock down because we got the memory up. Basically we had to turn the core clock down to get the rig to run stably, but after we've realised where we got with the GPU, we then decided to try and push the GPU memory up a little bit, and we saw that we could get it up that little bit higher. Now for the P score, obviously Vantage has been about forever and a day, so there's lots of people listing scores for Vantage, but that put me in 29th position globally, and then 13th position for 4 7970s. Quite a lot of the results for just the 4 cards as a whole are 4 580s that have been frozen, because again they've been about for forever and a day. Now I'm going to show you, if I just bring this up, I'm going to show you the X score for Vantage. Now the X score with the old rig was 50,441, but with the new system we got 51,673. Now, that's still a fairly big boost for the for that score. And one thing I will say is the reason why we've not got kind of a HWBot ranking for this is one of the scores that you can't submit. Now, I'll just let you know another thing, because I can't show you the screenshots for this because it's all done online, but HWBot's got its own version of Unigine. And for the Unigine Extreme, which is DX11, we were 18th globally and 12th for 47970s. But for Unigine Basic, which is DirectX 9, we were actually 3rd in the world for all of them. So for the globally and for the 47970s, we were 3rd in the world. So we did immensely well with those scores. But what I'm going to do now is we're going to wrap this video up, and we'll move on quickly and have a bit of a conclusion. Right then, peeps, time for the conclusion. Now, first of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Asus for loaning me all these cards, because let's face it, this isn't your average kind of review, and it's one of those things where there's a lot of you now thinking, where's the gameplay footage? As I've tried to explain to you before, when you do stuff like this, 4 cards will pretty much just cause more problems than it will solve. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a massive fan of Quadfire with like 2 6990s, for example, because the drivers are never ever that good, and it's real difficult to try and get everything talking together. So for games, they would pretty much literally have to stick AMD and the game developers in the same room for about 6 months to be able to get them to work properly. This is literally just us benching for the sake of it. It is we're doing it because we can, we're doing it because we want to, not necessarily because it's the best idea in the world, because let's face it, it does look nice, and it does pump out some good numbers, but you wouldn't necessarily want to live with it by the side of your rig when you're like on MSN or something like that, would you? But as you can see, we pulled out some good scores. We've obviously increased on all the results that we did before. I did have to spend an immense amount of time getting these set up, because there was quite a few times when stuff would crash and it would throw the drivers out, so we'd literally be taking all the drivers off again and trying to put them back on. It's been a complete and utter nightmare. Yeah, this time round more than the other times round. We ended up going back some drivers as well. Because some of the things AMD have done with the drivers with the latest release was just a complete pain in the arse. The very, very latest pre-release driver, I think it's the 12.2s, actually wouldn't let me disable the UAC. So basically the last card would always stop spinning, which means then you can't overclock. That we couldn't turn off with those drivers, we had to go back. It was an absolute mission. I lost count how many times I had to put the drivers on, on and back off again. But in case you're wondering, the fan isn't spinning because I've only got one of them running at the moment, but the noise is coming from those 160 CFM panel flows, which I'm going to be so happy when I get to take them off. Go on then, Straubs. Lovely courier. So I'm going to carry on making the end of the video. But yeah, we've gone pretty much top of the UK. We have gone top of the UK for all the benchmarks that we submitted. We smashed all of our scores before, but from now, basically the idea is I now need to try and work out how I can get my CPU clocked a little bit better, because especially the P scores, it's the CPU holding us back. Now, a lot of the 2011 processors seem to be hitting a wall around 4.8 gigahertz. Now, don't ever think that 4.8 gigahertz isn't a good clock, because it's an immense clock, and the thing is they're so fast anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's just a lot of you kind of attach yourself to that core speed and think, oh well, my Sandy Bridge can do 5.2. Doesn't work like that. It's not quite the same. But I do now need to get this either on a phase unit or get some dice on the top of the CPU, so that I can safely push the volts that little bit further and try and get this a bit further up. I honestly think with the setup that I had, if I'd been running the CPU at, say for argument's sake, 5.4 5.5 gigahertz, we would have been talking some massive numbers, and by massive numbers I think we would have been winning a lot more cups on HWBot. So this is something that maybe at a later date I'm going to go back to and see how I get on, but cooling is the issue, so I need to try and work that out and then find the time to do it. and then try and get these cards back off of Asus again. They've provisionally said to me if I want to do it again, I can always borrow them again for a couple of weeks. So the possibility is there, but obviously, as you've all probably worked out in the past, it all does come down to time and the feasibility of being able to do this. But I'm massively happy anyway. 25,400 3D Mark 11 points for a P score. Oh my god! I can remember when I thought 10,000 was an immense score. So the fact that we've, just unreal. So I'm going to leave this here. This is a classic overkill 3D. Do you know what I mean? We've done it because we want to. We've done it because we can. Big props to Asus, because obviously we've got a full rack of Asus 7970s here, and it's already on my Rampage 4 anyway. And also a big thank you to Corsair, because what you've got to bear in mind is it's all been powered by Corsair. It's cool, but yeah, two big names that we need to say a big thank you to, and a doff of the cap as well. But I'm going to love you and leave you. I hope to bring you something crazy like this again very soon. But this is a rather chuffed Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you.